welcome to the Ember podcast. Welcome back, guys. Today we'll be discussing nodes and conflict as our topic. Today's co-hosts are going to be actually from our own guild here, the Ember Guild. We're going to be talking to Wander and Doomfett. Wander, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself real quickly, just a little snippet, and then we'll go right to Doomfett right after that.
Hi, I am Wander. I am an artist in the guild. I also play Final Fantasy XIV, and I swear I'm not addicted. I'm very much into roleplay, and that's pretty much going to be my main focus when it comes to Ashes. All
right, awesome. Doomfett, go ahead.
Good to be back. Was looking forward to this. It was a mess, but hey, we're back here, and I'm ready to go, and let's get this going.
Hell yeah, man. All right, so first topic here we're going to be discussing, like I said, is nodes and conflict. So leading into that is kind of the beginning of all things once we step into the world of Verra, into the world of Ashes. Steven has said multiple times that when we enter into this world, it's going to be basically barren. It's going to be void of anything except for maybe a couple starting areas. When we come into it, we're going to be the ones creating this world up around us. That includes building up our cities, building up our defenses, our own missions, because there will be player-generated missions in this. There's going to be a lot that we're actually going to be inputting into this world. One of the biggest things, though, is that starting of what we're going to be seeing, what we can expect from that first initial push to create stuff. That rush for land, which to me, I think is going to be pretty chaotic. It's going to be literally everyone just spreading out, or maybe we might see some people kind of run into the same couple of areas. But stuff will be limited in that sense. So let's go ahead and start it off. Wonder, what do you think will be the first couple, maybe the first couple days? What do you think that will be like, rushing into this world?
Probably absolute madness. Like I'm more of a believer in like everyone's gonna get in and everyone's just gonna go wherever. I can imagine like a few guilds, like some of like the bigger guilds, are going to like have like specific spots planned out ahead of time. But for the most part, I think everyone's just gonna go in blind, and it's gonna be like Black Friday.
That's a good way of putting it. All right, Doomfett, what do you think, man?
I'm almost on the same boat with you, but a little different, because I feel like Steven and Jeffrey and all them, they're not going to show us the map of the world until we actually get in. They might give us some hints of some land here and there, but that's the beauty of discovering, is finding out what's out there in the world. And so yes, I do believe it's going to be a chaotic mess, like you said, but more of like an unknown factor. I think guilds are going to be a little bit more distraught, other than maybe spawning at the same location. I think that's a little ridiculous. I think it should be randomized, honestly, because then it makes it a little bit more fun. You'd be like, oh, where did I end up? Oh, hey, we want to set camp up over there. Crap. Let me get over there.
And go all the way across the frickin' map.
So just kind of touching on that, I'm not really sure that it should be randomized for one reason. When you come into this world, the world is going to be absolutely huge. It could be the size, they've said about 30 times the size of Skyrim. And there is no fast travel in this world. So there's no way of teleporting across from one side to the next. That's the beauty of it. Well, true. But if you have, let's say if you're part of guild and you get randomly stuck on the opposite side of the map from your teammates, you have to literally walk the entire distance, which could take, maybe a full day of just walking there, right? And that's, as a low-level character, that's wasted time, not being able to do anything, not being able to, create anything, not being able to actually play with your friends. The fact that they've said that you're going to be having that choice to, be able to jump out of any of the 5 different portals when you first start playing, I think that's going to come a long way in, basically making this fun for people, because you'll be able to actually, jump in with your friends versus being stuck on the other side of the world. But then again, I can also see your point. It's a little bit more like real life in that sense that, you are essentially born into something. You don't really get a choice of where you end up. So what do you think? Let's explore that a little bit further. What do you think would be some of the benefits of limiting that?
Well, limiting it, okay, it doesn't have to be full randomized, but maybe like a specific well, that's kind of hard to say too because it's limited to 5 spots. But in general, like you were saying, yes, it would suck to lose that progress of, having to travel so far to, catch up with the guild. But at the same time, you would have more ground known between point A to point B than most people, than them saying, hey, let me level grind here, do some quests, and then move on. Well, you could be like, oh, hey, I saw this really cool place over here. Maybe we, suggest maybe you set up camp there instead of where y'all originally had a plan to. Like, let's say the guild said, hey, let's go do a node on the coast. Well, we definitely know that there's going to be a coast, but we just don't know where. That's me going back into hoping that, the map that isn't revealed before we jump in, because I hope that there is that unknown factor of where do we go? Where do we want to set up?
True. Wonder, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm kind of on the same page here.
Okay.
Like at first, like I was on the opposite side, but like after hearing your argument, I'm like, okay. I do see your point.
True. Now,
very persuasive.
Some of this, though, some of it, like you said, not hoping that we don't see the map before we actually get into Ashes, right? Like some of that's going to be revealed, unfortunately, through the alphas, through Alpha 2 specifically. They may not actually release a map, but that people are going to just spread out over that entire area, writing it down, being actual cartographers and, trying to make this, make a, like Wander, like basically trying to make something that they can bring back to their guilds and say, hey, look, this is the whole area. These are these terrains. Let's go ahead and figure out which ones are the best. In that sense, that is going to be spoiled for us that are actually, participating in the alpha. But at the same time, it does give us, kind of like it's almost like a requirement at that point for us to do it, because we know that other people are going to be doing that as well. And that information will probably end up online so more people can see it. So I'm not too sure how they can, how they can really randomize that and still make it, work, right?
Maybe have like a randomized selection of like multiple different starting points, but just have it completely random, like around like the bottom half of the map. That way it's still centralized to one location, so you don't end up stranded from your friends, but it's still different.
Or,
see what I'm saying?
Or I like that, but what happens, because they can still do testing, with everyone, being able to show everything with after NDA and all that stuff. But they can still test everything, but yet still pull a fast one on us and just change the location of the spots. Be like, oh, hey, you guys thought you were coming in at A through Z. Well, guess what? We're going to flip it because it's the same functionality. They just decided to change the location.
I like that.
That could definitely be a way that they could do it. And I think that does kind of solve the problem in a sense. It's at least a good compromise there. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next section here. So obviously, when we first get into the world, resources are going to be pretty plentiful. We're going to actually have a lot of iron veins. We're going to have a lot of gold veins. We're going to be able to go out and chop down trees because there's going to be huge forests of them. But that's going to dry up very quickly. What do you guys think would happen once that initial rush is over? Once that initial we have a ton of resources, but now we're just consuming it as quickly as possible.
I think like the world economy is going to start booming, because like once resources start going farther and farther out of like an area of like easily once resources start kind of like venturing out from like area of like easily accessible territory, it like I guess I forget. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Like the economy is kind of going to skyrocket for those resources, because people are going to see more value in buying it off of somebody than going and getting it themselves. Like I think, especially in areas.
Real quick on what you're saying right now is my only question is because this is something I don't know. Are they going to have something for economy base? I know trade base, yes, personal trade to trade, but like let's say an auction house, I don't think there would be anything like that early on. It'd be normally just player to player trade, right?
Right. I was at the point that I'm talking about this, like for like there are going to be an abundance of resources in the world, but by the time like those are mostly consumed to the point where, to the point that I'm talking about, auction houses and like higher levels of civilization would be a thing.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think even at the earliest stages, they'll still have like merchants. You can still like sell your goods, which is going to be necessary. Even just building up the node is going to require a lot of resources, right? Mm-hmm. Like that tax system that they were talking about in some of their earliest node videos was describing how like you have to constantly feed this beast in order to grow it, right? So as you so what I'm kind of expecting here to happen is in that initial rush, that initial push, we'll probably see a lot of smaller nodes level up to like 1 or 2, and then you'll start seeing wars break out. You'll start seeing people start fighting for what's left, because as they're gathering as much as they can possibly bring in, you're going to start people coming up and conflicting over the same areas. And so you're going to start seeing people actually fighting against each other to be able to get that last piece of wood that's in between them. I think that's really going to be, for me at least, what drives a lot of the fun initially, is just those initial conflicts that kind of make the game what it is, right? Yeah. Now that also opens up other routes, though, as far as like trade, as far as alliances go. How do you guys think would let's go Doomfett on this one? How do you think initial alliances would start forming out of a node area?
All right, so a little bit of what we were just touching up to go into this. Mm-hmm. Now, it depends on the conflict to form these alliances. Now, is it going to be a massive horde of people with these, like you said, these first few towns, or are people going to split off? Because that's a big key to the factor. If, like, for instance, for me, if I saw a ton of people here, a ton of people there, well, let me go just a little bit further out where maybe I'm not, and there's not as many people, and yet that means my node could get the resources it needs, and I don't have to fight them. But that's where it comes in. Hey, this guy wants our alliance to help him out, to kick the crap out of the other guys, and we get a benefit out of it. Well, why wouldn't I do that? Because one, they're not conflicting with my resources, and I'm gaining a benefit out of it. So why wouldn't I take up that offer? So alliances like that I could see form. I honestly think if it's sister and brother borders literally right next to each other, I don't really think there is going to be alliance, because everyone is greedy, everyone wants it. It's just going to be a chaotic mess.
Yeah. Wonder, what do you think?
I can just honestly see it just being a gigantic mess unless people set up alliances ahead of time. I honestly kind of agree with Doomfett here. People are going to get greedy. People are going to get messy. It's going to be bad. And it's going to be like an area I'm just going to be like, I'm just going to stay out of, because I'm not like a combat focused person, even though it's going to be one of my main things. I'm going to be more focused on like trade and like mounts and like, workings.
I think you guys are both correct in that sense. Like, when it comes down to it, you'll probably see more alliances within your node. Like, basically guilds that may not have been friends to begin with will be forced to kind of come together to stomp out this neighboring guild or this neighboring node. I think that the fact that
every server is going to be different. Every server is going to have its own story.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Which makes it fun.
Yeah. So I could see like, two guilds being like, fighting over that same node, just killing each other day in and day out. And then because of that, them not actually spending time leveling that node, the neighboring node that has its stuff together, they come over and just squash them, like that conflict, that house divided cannot stand. That's something that I think we'll definitely see a lot of in the initial, probably in the first few months of this game.
It's going to force people to be so smart, and it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
That, or people are going to get really dumb, and they're going to do something that's going to conflict with everyone.
Also
Exactly.
true. But if people act dumb, the easier it is to outsmart them.
True. And there's so much that actually lends towards this too. I mean, like housing inside of a node itself is limited. You know, being able to actually get a house that's at a village stage, so you can get a mansion later on. That's gonna be first come, first serve. You know, so for those people that get left out of that, you know, what if they're like, well, screw this, I don't want to be here. You know, I don't want to not have this property. I'm going to go to the neighboring node and try to get that again. You know, it could see multiple different ways that this could play out. You could see a lot of people fighting over one small area, or the people just spreading out consistently trying to get their own stuff.
But I hope that doesn't discourage people, you know, coming into it. Oh, I didn't get the mansion inside the metropolis. Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, I'm sorry, yes. But that doesn't mean you don't get something.
Right.
I just really hope that doesn't discourage people and be like, well, I didn't get what I wanted, so you know what? Then they leave. I mean, there's tons of people out there, gimme, 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 gimme. It's, I want what he has type thing, equality. But, you know, there are some things like you just said, first come, first serve on the house. Well, I really, really, really hope it just doesn't discourage people in this game that the first come, first serve system, because it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm honestly on the opposite of that. I hope, like, for me, the kind of person that would get discouraged by that, it's going to sound kind of harsh, but I'm kind of glad that they would kind of go away from the game, because I don't think I kind of want a population of that in the community, because it's just a really bad mindset.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, if you look at EVE Online, for example, you know, it's a very successful game. It's been out for, what, 14, 15 years? And that game is very much... sorry, maybe that wouldn't be the best word for it. I was saying as far as, like, being successful, you know, they're a successful game as far as having, you know, a long lifespan, having a good, steady player base. You know, people are still playing that game more than a decade after, right? It's probably one of the only MMOs out there that can really say that they've succeeded. You know, when you look at that game, there's not a lot of casual players in it, simply because you can't really be, you know, casual and expect to just get everything handed to you. And I think that Ashes in a large sense is going to end up somewhat the same. You know, you're going to have to actually work for what you're going to get, and I think that adds value, though. I mean, I think that actually does add, you know, a meaningfulness as far as what you have. Like, you didn't just buy it, you didn't just, like, you know, spend like an hour or two grinding and get like max level, like with some games. Like, you actually had to put in the work and effort.
Well, the only thing about that is a catch-up system for either new players or existing players. You know, life comes first, right? Well,
yeah.
You know, hopefully, if you can't commit as much as the person who really can, I was going to say no life, but, you know, let's not say that, because that would be me.
No life as opposed to no social, as no personal life.
Right. But if they can't commit as much as, like, let's say we can, well, I don't feel like they should be left behind.
Right.
That is a fear.
So
it's playing off of that. Like, I would be the kind of person that would benefit heavily from that, because I barely get any time to sit down and actually play games, because I'm just busy, just taking care of my own shit.
Yeah. I mean, so how do you envision that working, though, from a standpoint where it doesn't make everything too easy, you know? Like, in a sense, the catch-up system being like that, you could just get like a level, you know, leveled up to a certain extent, or what are you thinking with that?
Maybe like an EXP bonus for a certain amount of days?
I wouldn't even say that. Just, you know, because it's risk versus reward in this game, and everything has a repercussion. But at the same time, like, let's say you logged out and you had your house, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, when you come back in, let's say you logged out for X amount of days that was over the time frame and your metropolis fell. Well, you're still going to lose your house, but, you know, they kind of set you up somewhere else, and they kind of like put you in that location, and then you kind of get the gist in like a letter in the mailbox saying, hey, welcome back, good to have you back. Here's your house. You were gone. And I mean, because you can't defend your house while you're gone doing real life stuff. If you're taking I can't say necessarily taking a break, but just in general, I don't feel like you should lose that due to the fact, life comes first.
I would say that, see, when it comes down to it, that's why you should have a group, though. That's why you should be part of a guild, part of an active community that can help defend you when you can't be online, right? That's where that guild aspect comes into play. Like, if you can just log off for, let's say, like 3 or 4 months and come back in and not really have lost anything, like, I feel like that doesn't really make sense in a living world like this. I think that maybe maybe their system where they, like they said, that you can basically have your schematics mailed to you, so you can just set it up the same, but like basically still have to actually pay something to get it back. So you'll have to put in resources and all that.
Okay, so going based off that, what you just said, not having to lose anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what came to mind when you first said that is okay, well, I can take a vacation to the Bahamas for 3 months and my house will still be here, but I would have to pay rent. So maybe add a charge or something into it where it goes back to the community, the currency of the node, where they're still giving something to keep their place there.
Right.
And as soon as they run out of the money.
Right. And going into that, you would be like, hey, well, I'm about to leave. How much money do I have? Well, I don't have it. So maybe I should go get that before leaving, or just saying, don't got it.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I mean, so they
maybe like what kind of popped in my head like a minute or two ago was maybe putting a system in place where it's like, oh, hey, I can't log in for a few days, but I'm scared I'm going to lose my house. Maybe have like a system in place where it's like, I lock the doors for a few days and people can't break in. Maybe like 4 days.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they would build a break in. I think they've said that there's like no
it's
no
a security
thieving,
system
but
is what she's saying is you have like a very short window of security.
Right.
Security where like for someone like me, like I work 3 doubles in a row. I won't be able to log in that time. I can log in on the 4th day and be like, hey, house.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, from my perspective, the one thing I really want this game to be about is about community, about basically being part of something. Having systems that force players to participate in those like guilds and like the actual node itself, that should be meaningful, right? It should be something that you shouldn't be able to just kind of leech off of it. When it comes down to it, they did say that there is going to be a decay system as far as like having a tax on your house. So there is that in place. They did say that if you get sieged and you lose your home, that'll be sent to you as a schematic where you'd have to just pay some resources and basically you can then put it down again in the world. But I think going too far in the fact that like there shouldn't be an XP boost. It should be something that you have to actually spend time doing. Making sure that they don't add in things like like how WoW does it, where you can just buy levels up to so and so level, right? There should be a definite cost as far as what you do in this game, so that makes it actually worthwhile to play through.
Maybe like a set of requirements in order to unlock like an EXP boost. That way it forces you to give back to the community, and then it also benefits you for coming back to the game. Yeah.
Well,
could be something like that.
Unfortunately, I don't know how they would do something like that, because that's almost like he was going in with WoW. That's almost a pay to win factor, because you're getting something more than what the average person could. Because if they could do that, then why couldn't the normal person do that? Where it's still going to the community, and you're getting an XP boost, which means it gives you upper hand of the other guy. So, unfortunately, I'm not down for that, just due to the fact I feel like that is a pay-to-win function, or a pay to convenience.
Okay. Even for something like someone who hasn't logged in like 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a system off the top of my head other than maybe how Blizzard does it, where, if you log out for like 2 weeks in an inn, your bar will go blue instead of purple. And within that, and you get 2 levels worth of like, I think it's like a 0.5 more XP times, and it adds to you while you're questing and killing things. which is a nice system, but at the same time, I feel like there could be something better, but not a here's my gold, here's my money, let me boost.
Yeah, I would agree with that
Maybe
as far as
maybe something other than gold. Like fulfilling quests around the thing, helping level the node, helping clear things, like reach certain objectives.
that'd be kind of cool. So almost like
Not using money.
almost like you benefit the system, it benefits you, kind of thing.
Kind of.
That'd be interesting. I wonder. I'm not sure how they'd make it work. You have to
But not like 3 objectives, something like 8 to 10.
Okay.
And even then, it's maybe like instead of like 20%, it's like maybe like 15. Something smaller, and still gives you a little bit of a boost, but not so much that it's like I'm gonna beat you in levels.
Right. I think if
It's
that's
still, like, a
something
little
that's if that's something that's available, it should definitely be after a certain period of time offline, and it should definitely be something that automatically unlocks. You know, if it
3 months.
Yeah, if it does get added into the game, and it wouldn't be something that you would have to purchase, it'd be something like how Doomfett was saying, is like the system is just, it gets added to your bar or something like that. But let's go ahead and get back to the original topics here. As far as this goes, when it comes to the node and how we're going to expect to fight over it and how we're going to actually build it up, so much of that is going to be reliant on building friendships in this place. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, a lot of these systems that I want to see in place, and that I am seeing them put in place, are systems that kind of force you to interact, right? Like their whole town hall system, their tavern system, things that could basically force you to come to a central area to be able to get stuff done. You have to be able to actually manually go down and talk to these people in these places, right? With that system, what do you guys hope to see to kind of encourage that community play? Not just the solo play like we see with games like ESO or games like Guild Wars or any other MMO pretty much right now, that you see a lot of solo play through, especially when leveling.
I just want to see role play community flourish, because it's like the perfect. Okay, I'm gonna scream that a lot talking about Ash's. But Ash's system is one of the most perfect I've seen for driving a really strong community that can hit the ground running. I'm so hyped.
Well, what do you think? What do you think about that makes it work?
I love the fact that it's a player-based system. I love that it's there are player-based quests. There's player-generated quests. It's like anything you do affects the community. It's not a static world. Anything, all of your decisions, all of your allies, all of your rivals, everything affects it. And so it feels like a living, breathing world. And that's the perfect atmosphere for writing.
Yeah. I can definitely see that, and that's something I personally, as Sinbad, I'm gonna be on my ship. I'm gonna be RPing on my ship as Sinbad from the Magi series, right? It's something that I've never really done seriously, but for this, I do want to. Being character in this seems like it would be a lot of fun. But what other things would you like to see Doomfett that would help bring people together, actually help them, kind of force to participate together, be able to accomplish stuff?
A duel guild. A dueler's guild. Everyone can duel and stuff like that. I'm a PvP guy. That's my forte. I used to be a hardcore PvE guy, but you know what? I just don't have time for raids galore. Let me spend 20 hours in here a week. I'll show up a few times. Let me go kill somebody. But a duelers guild, it brings people together inside the system, or maybe like an arena-based system. I don't know.
Maybe like a combat tournament?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. It's not necessarily like a arena, like how they do it, that they have it planned now, and like they have it in WoW, but actually where people can go and watch and participate. They can go sell their hens that they cooked up or something like that while they're eating it, and it goes into the role-playing aspect like you want. But while in there, it's actually like a 1v1 duelers guild where you just go and people can see who's the best. I mean, not necessarily who's the best, but
who's gonna win.
Yeah, exactly.
Place bets.
Yeah, exactly, and it goes into stuff like that.
Fuel the role-playing economy, which fuels the merchant economy, which fuels the PvP economy, which fuels everything else. It's all interwoven.
Yeah. I love
Everybody should just roleplay.
that. All right. Actually, Doomfett, I love that you mentioned the arena system because one of the metros, as we know, is going to be the military metro, right? And in order to be able to become the leader of that metro, it's going to be a last man standing kind of thing. How would you envision that working?
It's not going to go well.
Would you see like people coming together and just like ganking each other, and then like maybe one guild running 3 players?
Until we get more light shed on us, that's kind of how it seems. But it could be what we just talked about. It can be a tournament-based system for all we know, which I wouldn't see how they would apply that to the node itself. But who knows? But in general, it's not going to matter because it's always going to be I feel like it's always going to be a conflict with itself in itself. Because PvPers just want to show that they're better than the next person. So even if they have a PvP leader, they're just going to want to beat him. That's it. That is their goal. That they made a goal for inner drama pretty much just to beat the leader, so they can be the leader, just to show that they're the best.
See, I love that though. You know, like that.
It's a constant fueling cycle.
Yeah, exactly. And see, that's something that can keep someone engaged that loves PvP for a very long time, right? Part of that, though, like, well, let's say they do in a tournament style election, right? You know, how would you do it if you're going to have 64 different builds? How would you balance that out?
That's what I was saying. I don't see how they could implement something like that with, you know, just even for one for each class on top of how many people are in that node. And let's say it's a metropolis. Like, how? It's not going to happen. It's just going to be, here, let's all stick you here in this one spot. Good luck.
I just see them taking everything and putting it into a blender. Puree.
Like Battle Royale, like, you know, PUBG, but in Ashes of Creation, basically.
No.
They take a bunch of dragons, drop you off, like right in the center of the map. Oh god.
Kind of, but really bad.
I'm gonna trademark that.
Actually, going based off of that, they could do now I know it's not happening, but they could implement a system, hey, reach point A or reach the end point, but you know, not having like the circle close in on you. But to get there, that's how you become the leader. But while doing it, you're going to come across other people, and then make it like a flag capping system where, you know, when trying to cap it, you know, you have a loading bar to cap it, and it takes quite a bit. So that means anyone can come up and smack you once and stop you, and it just gives that much amount of time.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the only way to really cap it, because it's such a long, you know, casting bar, would be the last man standing.
I could see that.
So you'd have to constantly hold your ground.
Right.
No, would you actually have to? You wouldn't necessarily have to fight, though, right?
First. Well, yeah. I mean, you would run into people along the way and fight each other if you decided to do that, or you can just say, screw it. Well, we don't know who's at the end yet, and just all show up, and then it's a gang fest again. But there might be the time where you're like, oh, hey, you know, I'm gonna kill this guy here and now. I know that guy, he's a threat. He might not see me. Let me get the flank on him. Well, at the end, I mean, everyone's just gonna show up and start hitting each other. I mean, it's gonna happen, but it's just gonna show like you have one life. Good luck.
Yeah, that makes sense. I actually do kind of like that idea because there's a lot of different metas that can come out of that. You know, like you could have Ranger Rogues, for example, that can just sprint to the end real quickly. Yep. That then once they get to the flag and they start capping it, they just go invisible, right? Or you could have mages that just teleport away as soon as you get near them. And there's definitely a lot of different ways you could play that out. You could have trappers. You could have tanks that build walls that just stop people. It'd be a pretty interesting. You
could also have like, this thought just crossed my mind. You could also have groups of people helping you protect the thing and ensuring that you get it. Having like a circle of people fight off people around you.
That's what I was about to get into. Is there actually may be alliances formed? Like, let's say there's a cleric that's in there, and y'all are best buds, and y'all are in the same node. Well, you got a pocket healer with you.
Pocket heals. I can't heal for shit. I will stab someone.
And then, I mean, you're trying to like persuade the guy, like, hey, look, you want me to be the leader, or you want this jack off over here to be the leader? And then you might persuade him, and then you got someone with you to help you, and then at the end they just pretty much let you kill them, or they might betray you and kill you.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
There's definitely a lot of different ways I could see them making that work, and I'm hopeful that they don't just do something like a free for all. You know, as far as like just dropping in the center of a town and saying, "Hey, fight it out." You know, if it is in a terrain around the node, like that'd be awesome. You know, having objectives to complete would be awesome as well.
But kind of like I hope if they do a system like that, it would be like a locked-in area, like a lock-in instanced area. That way,
it'd be inside the node itself.
Yeah, just locked in around the node itself. That way, outside influences can't. Once it's locked in, nobody can get in, nobody can get out.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just to like walk by and you see like a big dome over it. What's going on? Oh, they're killing each other again.
They're
like you can see inside. It's like some Hunger Games shit.
That'd be awesome, man. See, like that plus the other types of nodes, like each of them having their own election styles is something that I really find awesome. I mean, like when it comes down to like even the metro for the economic node is going to have some behind the scenes bloodshed, I can tell. You know, just because you have the biggest bidder coming in, you know, what happens, let's say if, you know, 3 different guilds get together and say, hey, this is our guy. We're going to go ahead and take over this rival node by basically having him declare citizenship, us bankrolling him, and then him just bidding it up to where he can become the leader of that. You know, whole wars could be started because another guild and another node decided to steal the leadership of your node and basically wreck it for you. What do you guys think about that?
This is why I will not join an economy node.
Yeah. I mean, see, that's the thing, though, is there's big benefits. There's really big benefits are having an economic node in that you can essentially get a global market within your node's zone of influence. But at the same time, there's also those huge cons, right? Of someone that just has a ton of money coming in and stealing everything. But then again, you also have the same issue though with scientific nodes too. You know, when it comes down to it, an election-based system can be, being gamed. You know, if you have a really large group of people that can come in, declare citizenship real quickly, you know, with like all characters, for example.
How is the faith one? There's a faith one, isn't there?
That one I think is probably one of the fairest. It's more based on like, you know, questing, becoming.
Oh yeah, who does the more
pious.
Questing? That's right. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. There's less chance for someone to game the system in that sense. Because you actually have to earn it.
It's more like a race almost.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like. But going into the scientific node, you know, a pure election, you know, I'm all for it. That's what we have now. It doesn't necessarily work all the time, but at the same time, you know what? We can still kick people out with enough votes. We can still vote somebody in. I think it's the most fair in my book because it's going player to player to player to player to player. Where the military, there might be one guy who's just an elitist jerk. He's going to win. And if you have the economy guy who's, you know, does nothing but spreadsheets all day, we already know who's going to win that one because it's all about the money in the pocket and just throws it in and is like, oh, this is only a chunk of what I have. And you're just like, great, now how much are you going to tax me?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but going back into the science, I just feel like, one, you get fast travel, plus. 2, it's just a voting system I feel like works better. Yeah, maybe the person you don't want in there is the person who gets voted in is not the person you want, but yet you can still vote them out.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I can definitely see that being one of the fairest systems. The main issue though is like, let's say if you have a guild like Goonswarm come in, you know, who controls their node essentially, right? If you're a citizen of that node, you essentially have no say whatsoever over your system. You know, at that point, it's basically just their node.
Well,
So-
that's just bad. That's just bad. I mean, that's expected to happen in the game. That's what creates stories is bad leadership, goon squads,
Yeah.
all these people that have the potential of becoming a leader of a node. But let's say, God forbid, things don't go right here.
Mhm.
I still have another option to go somewhere else. That might not be the right place for me to go because, let's say my guild's here, but yet, things might not be ran at this node the way I want to. It doesn't mean I can't be part of the guild. It just means I just don't want to be here.
Yeah.
It still gives you that free range of, hey, I don't want to be here. And then on top of it all, maybe there's a tyrant, as a leader. Eventually, everyone will come together and just be like, I'm done with this. Get him out. Now, if it's a goon squad, good luck. I mean, you're just going to have to do a siege and just hope for the best.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, that's like you said, that's where the big stories come from. That's where you get those lore built into this game that we can tell people like 12 years from now, like, hey, do you remember this? I was there. Like, I helped fight against like this insane dictator. It's actually that kind of yes, exactly. We'll be telling our grandkids about these epic stories, and they'll be like, this didn't happen, Grandpa. This is like fantasy. What the heck?
Back in my day.
So one thing that I was kind of thinking about when it comes to the metros specifically is that they said there can be up to 5 metros. Now, there may be a configuration where that doesn't happen. That could be a configuration where all the metros are like right in the center and their zones of influence go out diagonally like this, but because of that, it blocks out the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th metro being built. In that situation, do you guys see like a world like that, a possibility like that happening?
No. The only reason is that I feel like everything's going to be set in place. It's not going to be like, hey, I want it here to block off all this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's say we have 5 metros in the center. Yeah, it's gonna make things hazy for a while, but after a while, you have 5 metros next to each other. One's gonna kill each other.
Yeah.
So eventually it's going to go down where, all right, well, I'm attacking him. Well, at the same time, when the next metro hears that this one's declaring war, well, they might go, all right, well, I'm going to declare war on you now. And it's just going to be like almost like a domino effect until there's one metro. And then they're king.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like, what I can see happening though too is that there could be like a metro way off on the right-hand side of the map that no one's ever gone up to, except for like that initial starting groups of like maybe like an alliance that formed beforehand. But their zone of influence is just outside far enough to where like the 3 other metros down here, they never see them. And so that one could just be up there on its own, just doing its own thing for forever, right? Like I was kind of thinking when it comes down to this, nothing's really set in stone as far as, what metros get built where. So it is going to be up to us to kind of create that. We could see some really neat ones where you could actually have like a metro out like on an island or something like that if there's an island node. Which then that kind of makes you question like how many other nodes can be within its zone of influence if it's out like in the middle of the sea somewhere.
Island node.
I wouldn't want that, but I mean, it's smart.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to look at the pros and cons of each location when it comes down to that. Like how many different nodes you can actually.
You won't lose it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'd probably still have trade, but it'd just be with ships.
Unless, I haven't heard anything about a ship to caravan system.
There is.
I mean, if they have something, okay, good. I'm about to say I haven't heard anything about that, but if they implement that, then I take back my complete statement.
Like, I would want like an economy node on an island, and I would just level fishing, and I would just make a killing.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, even from the perspective of just trading with other people, if you can be on an area that puts you out further, you can get those exotic resources that have basically dried up where everyone else is. You then have
people who don't have ships can't get to you, so people who have lots of money
but
possibly come to you.
But as a military tactic, what you could do is you just wait for them to come to shore, and you're like, here we are, we're going to take you over now. And you just attack the caravans, and then they have 0 trade. And if you have 0 trade,
well, that's assuming that the caravans are in a set location. that you have to come to shore at a set route.
Well, right. That's what I'm saying is if you can almost pinpoint coming from a coastal town trying to come to land, let's say as a island. Well, it's either going to be around this coastal area right here because the next closest node is going to be here or here or here if they want to get ballsy and go further. And then you can put into aspect and just be like, all right, well, which one's an economy node or which one, is what such and such, and who has the most trade to offer, because they don't have the resources out there that they need to help build things and, everything else. So then you can just kind of assume, and I mean, let's say they don't go that route. Well, then you can pretty much be like, all right, well, let's split this up. Have a scout or 2 scouts, 3 scouts, whatever the case may be. You go here, 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 and here. There's things called Discord now. We're on it. They're over here. Yeah, you won't get there fast enough, but you get the idea of where they're coming from.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. So, that kind of goes into your actions have consequences. Like that. I
have no idea what you're talking about.
When it comes down to it, I think that there will be like an ideal place for a node to be. I think there will be a location that might be like the one location in the world that you have to kind of go find, but maybe it's like right next to a mountain and right on the side of the ocean, so you can have trade but also have defense. Being able to see where they put the nodes in the game, that's going to be really interesting and be able to actually map that out and strategize around that.
Real quick before we leave this topic, you're talking about going into a mountain. I think personally, as a game perspective wise, because this is not real life, but as a game perspective wise, it almost feels like a mountain node military wise would be the safest, just due to the fact it'd be harder to seize. There's nowhere to flank, and a computer game can only do so much. Right. And so you pretty much just have to hold one line instead of having to worry about all sides. Yeah. So I love that idea. It gives an idea of security, and who doesn't like seeing, like, I'm not a dwarven person, but who doesn't like seeing dwarven structures in mountains? It's just awesome.
Yeah.
I could tell a dwarven pack about this.
Well, so the last topic for us here is, what is the pros and cons of actually destroying a metro? That big, big city that took forever to build up. What is the actual cons of taking it on and destroying it, and what are the benefits? Wonder, from a trade perspective, what do you think would be the cons and benefits of actually destroying a metro that is next door to you?
Trade-wise, I think it would depend heavily on like what the metro was. The metro was like another trading hub that contained a lot of resources, that contained a lot of like connections with other hubs that I needed. Then it would be a massive hit to my economy, like trading with them. However, if it's just like some idiotic thing that doesn't know what it's doing, then it's like, okay, let me take you over and let me get your resources so I can build up my economy. Let me trade out. I guess it just depends on like what kind of setup you have and just what kind of setup they have.
That's true. Yeah, the resources being
and just dominate the trade market.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, if they're eating up all my resources and they're not trading with me, and like I'm for sure going to go attack them. At that point, right?
Right. No, she has a good point, because there was a thing back in WoW Vanilla. It was called the Ungoro Mafia.
Yes.
And what they did is they sat there in Ungoro Crater, where you can only skin the specific hide off the dinosaurs there, and they wouldn't allow you to do it. They would just go and gank you. And so they would kill you, and then or they would control it themselves, and they just farm it, and they owned that market. No one else was able to touch it. It was a monopoly.
Yeah. It was shit.
Oh man,
it was shit.
I could see that happening in this game. I could definitely see that happening where like they have.
I'm fighting you on that, because they have how they said that things implement is, if you have mine A here and you mine it, well, guess what? That same mine is going to pop up somewhere else in the world. I feel like if something like that was to happen in the game, they would implement that to that resource as well, where, hey, let's say this specific lumber grew here for this season, Well, you chopped it all down. Well, it's not going to grow there again. You chopped it all down. It's going to grow somewhere else. Go find it. And that's what keeps you active. It keeps the world active. It keeps it going.
Keeps the world moving.
Right.
Yeah.
And it prevents monopoly, but it also prevents conflict where everyone's now like, oh my God, we need that wood. So everyone's going to rush there.
Right.
Instead of someone being like, nope, it's ours, stay away.
Which is why you need people like me who constantly go from town to town.
Yeah.
Go on trading caravans.
That's pretty awesome.
And scout out places.
Yeah.
He makes a really good point.
That is a really good point. And you're right. The fact that resources do expire, that they do get depleted.
I love that.
Yeah, that is pretty nice.
As much
actually.
of a pain in the butt it's going to be later on. As much of a pain in the butt it's going to be for me later on. I love it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, wars could actually be fought because resource spawn next to a certain node, and that's the only one that's there. You know, and that's the only one that's within an area that you've scouted, and you have to go get that.
Be prepared for me to tell everyone in the guild, we need that resource. Everybody go kill them.
Yeah.
See, and I'm not even a crafter. That's the funny thing is I'm not even a crafter or gatherer in most MMOs I play. I'm the guy that they go, hey, can I bring you along so you know if I try to get ganked, you can help me out. I'm just the bodyguard. And that's all I want to do in this game is I want to be the guy who looks for the guys with the bad karma system. What is it called?
The bounty hunter? The corruption system?
The corruption. Thank you. Corruption was the word I was looking for. The corruption. I want to be that. I want to be the bounty hunter. I want to be the sellsword. I want to be that guy. Be like, hey, I need you. Let's go. And then that's how I make my currency.
You're free to hop aboard my caravan.
I think as a guild, I can tell you
everywhere.
Yeah, as a guild, we're going to be doing organized events all around that. I think
also secretly killing people on the side, but don't tell anybody.
That's what a sellsword is. I mean, you have your alliance, but at the same token, you still have to make your income.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
I'm not going to be a rogue ranger for nothing.
All right, guys. And then, so what other benefits or cons do you think there are? Because I mean, there's a lot of things. There's space, being limited, basically actually having housing. There's leveling up your own node. There's building out dungeons and raids, basically unlocking those. There's relic systems, which are a whole thing that they kind of touched on a little bit. They said there'll be massive benefits at a higher level. But, if you basically want to unlock a relic for your node, you have to get to that metro stage. So what do you guys think would be like the benefits of taking down like the economic node right next to you?
I don't have to deal with a bunch of yappies talking about money. But in honesty, it gives you a self of urgency, like how you were just saying about how they touch very little about that topic, but yet there might be so much more where maybe you get something from their node that will benefit your node to help to go towards that path. I mean, there's so many different ways. I mean, because we don't know everything yet. And there's so many ways we're still in unknown territory. Exactly. And I'm just waiting to hear like, oh, by the way, you get these benefits on top of killing a metropolis. It still gives that urgency, but yet remember, if you lose that.
Yeah.
It could be benefits that carry over that kind of stack. Like, hey, this person stole this node, so they get this benefit. Now it stacks onto you because you killed them, and it just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks.
Yeah.
So it just becomes this list of benefits.
Well, the other part of it is the cost, right? Like, like you were saying, Doomfett, you go out and you siege a metro, you have to put up just as much resources potentially as it took to build that thing. You could literally bankrupt yourself, bankrupt your node, bankrupt your guild trying to go take another metro. I mean, there's also a lot of risk.
Smart about it.
Yeah, I mean, so I wonder if that means that at the same time we won't be seeing that happen very often, where there's just too much risk in taking that out, and then that benefit is
I guarantee it. I guarantee this is where it's going to come down to. A lot of people think it's going to be the military nodes that want to take over. It's not. It's going to be the economy nodes. The economy nodes are going to have the money, and they don't necessarily have to go farm the resources. It's all about coin, right? Buy them. Exactly. So
they can pay people to go buy it for them.
Exactly. So they can literally, going back into like almost my job that I want to do in Ashes of Creation is be a sellsword. Now, if it's not a node that's a sister node or a friendly node to our, like, let's say our guild or something like that, yeah, I'll go do it. You give me the money. That's my source of income. I need to pay for my house, right?
Right. if you're gonna give me more money for this 500 pieces of wood that I got that I can sell it for, gimme.
Right, exactly. But at the same time, we also have to like know our boundaries, especially if, like for me, for instance, to be like a sellsword is to be like, all right, well, this guy, he did it once. That's okay. Now he's doing it again. That should give off some alarms going, all right, tyrant, maybe he wants to own everything. Let's maybe not help him anymore. And maybe give like word to help, the sisters out, maybe, rally and maybe, it goes back into that drama stage, maybe backstab him and just be like, I'm not helping you. I'm going to go help them now. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
frame him for murder?
Shouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to like, a siege of a node may be completely open world. So you could technically bring in another node jumping in on it just for fun. If they see that this metro is starting to get sieged, they may not have to actually be able to declare war. They could just jump in and start killing people on both sides if they wanted to.
7 guilds on one node at once.
Right.
Have like a tyrant in the middle, and you have this like 8, 9, 10 groups of people just coming in and just trashing the place.
Yeah, I mean that could definitely happen. Like where you have one node declare on their neighboring node, and rumor spreads. Basically the nodes next door to it hear about it, and they're like, you know what? This is kind of our chance to kill both of these people, to make them both waste a lot of money and a lot of resources. Let's just jump in and cause chaos.
I always forget that like the nodes that are at war also have to expend their resources. That's a good way to like bring them down a notch.
You could win in basically a fight against both without after really being spend that much.
Not really expending any effort.
Yeah.
You just let them drag it out between each other.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, my only concern about something like that is like, let's say a third party jumps in when they notice the weaker of the two groups.
Yeah.
How would that system work? Because the person who declares a siege has to give notification to that metropolis or town or whatever the case may be. If they don't do something like that, or I feel like inside that system itself, because I feel like that's a metropolis UI system that they would have to agree upon to be a part of before declaring it. Because if that's not the case, then what would be the point of the system in general?
Well, here's the thing, right? The world is open combat. There's no safe space.
Right, but they couldn't. What I'm getting at is could they actually take it over? Yeah, you could go in there and kill everybody.
I don't think you'd be able to take it over.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, I think like you're right in that sense. You wouldn't be able to actually take it over, but at the same time, you could cause that node that you basically wanted to destroy. You could cause them a lot of grief, by coming in and fighting them alongside their enemy. Or let's say if you want to screw over the node that's trying to kill this other one, you could come in and do whatever you wanted, right? It's kind of like an unknown factor that to a certain extent you can't necessarily plan for. Unless they make the entire thing an instance that you have to join in on, but
that'd be so dumb.
Yeah,
it'd be so that would neglect the whole pillar itself.
Right, exactly.
I really wish that like the only thing that they would keep instance is like that thing we were talking about earlier, where it's like going to like claim a node and they have like the instanced area. Other than that, I hope they keep everything kind of open world and just kind of real time.
Only rating. I think it needs to be instant based because there should be because I mean that's a guild progression system that anyone should be able to do if it's unlocked through the node system. Go figure. But just in general, just in general, real quick, that if it has to be instant based due to the fact we don't want 20 rogues down there just waiting for the healers to show up and then they just all backstab them and kill them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that's also something though that can definitely happen, right? Like since there isn't that instant space in like a node fight, you could have a siege where there's literally just clerics. Like let be ridiculous, but you could have like literally a siege that never ends. And they're like, they'll make a song about it. It's like the siege that never ends. It just goes on, my friend. But regardless of that, you could have some really crazy combinations because of the way that this game works. And I love that. I love the fact that you can do that if you want to. All right. Any last thoughts here, guys, before we close this out?
Yeah, I had one, but it slipped me.
I'm good.
All right. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and end the show now, guys. Thank you all very much for watching us here. Let's go ahead and just leave off with some last outros. Wonder, Doomfett. Let's go with Doomfett first since we started off with Wonder. Go ahead and just say something a little about yourself, where we can find you in the world, and what you're up to.
You guys can find me on World of Warcraft. You can find me in League of Legends. You can find me in this Discord, or you can find me in the Ashes of Creation Discord or forums. I try to post as much as I can. Other than that, hope to see you guys next time.
All right, Wonder.
You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on Discord, everywhere. You can find me in the Guild Discord, on the Ashes of Creation Discord. I tend to favor Discord very much so, and I also try to live stream art and gameplay. So catch me then.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for jumping in. We are Ember. We're an Ashes of Creation guild. We're PVX based. We're focused around content creation as well. So we'll be creating more podcasts like this, live streaming like what Wander's doing. We're going to be also creating a lot of content on YouTube, especially around guides, different tutorials for Ashes of Creation. A lot of our members are going to have access to Alpha 1, Alpha 2. We'll be putting out a lot of content around that, so stay tuned. We're focused also on being a community, though, that builds friendships. That's very much a home for our members. If you want to be part of that, if you want to be part of a community that wants to be the best and wants to take care of its own, come on. We'll go ahead and accept you on board. If you're a good person, if you're chill with us and we vibe well, you're more than welcome here. So we're going to be putting down a link here for our Discord. Go ahead and click on that if you want to join. There's an application and an interview process. We do have a trial membership as well to make sure that our members are, the best of the best. But if you join in, you'll be more than welcome to be part of our community. You can also go visit us on our website as well, which is embers.us. We're going to be launching this right here along with this video, which should be on the 31st. All right, guys. Thank you all for watching. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.